Something extraordinary just happened in the skies over the Strait of Hormuz that has thrown the entire Iran peace deal into absolute chaos. On Memorial Day, the very day America was honoring its fallen heroes, and the very day Iran was supposedly signing a historic ceasefire framework with the United States, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps reached up and shot down an Israeli reconnaissance drone over Hormuzgan Province. The wreckage was pulled from the waters. The shootdown was announced publicly, and the entire world is now watching to see whether this single act has destroyed the most important diplomatic moment of the entire conflict. Tonight, we reveal what this drone shootdown actually means, why Iran is sending two completely contradictory messages at the same time, and how President Trump just dropped a stunning Abraham Accords bombshell that could reshape the entire Middle East forever. Stay with us, because what you are about to learn will absolutely stun you. Before we get into the breaking news of the past 24 hours, we have to start where this day deserves to start, with 6 American names. 6 service members who never came home. 6 families that received the worst phone call any family can receive. Major John A. Klein, Captain Ariana G. Savino, Tech Sergeant Ashley B. Pewitt, Captain Seth R. Koval, Captain Curtis J. Angst, and Tech Sergeant Tyler H. Simmons. Each of these heroes served with distinction. Each of them embraced a mission whose importance reached far beyond their own individual lives. They flew the KC-135 refueling tankers that allowed American bombers to stay airborne over Iran for the sustained duration of Operation Epic Fury. They provided the aerial refueling capability that made it possible for B-52s to fly marathon missions from Britain and for B-2 Spirits to fly round-trip from Missouri. Without the KC-135s and the crews who flew them, none of the strikes that reduced Iran's defense industrial base by 90% would have been possible. Without them, the campaign that put Iran at this negotiating table would never have happened. They are the reason this peace deal exists to argue about. They are why we can even have the conversation about whether Iran might one day join the Abraham Accords. On this Memorial Day, before we talk about any of the drama or the bombshells or the drone shootdowns, we say their names. We honor what they gave. And we never forget. This one is for them. To understand what just happened, you need the full context of the 48 hours surrounding Memorial Day 2026. Because Memorial Day cannot be understood without understanding what happened the day before on May 24th. On May 24th, 3 Iranian officials confirmed a peace framework had been reached with the United States. American senators called it a disaster. American officials said uranium surrender was in writing. Iranian officials publicly denied that any uranium commitment existed. And while all of this was unfolding, Russia simultaneously fired its Oreshnik intermediate-range missile at Kyiv in a brutal demonstration of force against Ukraine. The world went to bed on the night of May 24th, completely uncertain about everything. Did a deal exist? What was actually in it? Had Iran truly committed to giving up its uranium, or was Tehran simply lying about deferring the question? Was the whole framework about to collapse into resumed military operations within hours? And then on Memorial Day morning, while America was having that debate, Iran did something that tells you exactly what kind of partner the United States is actually dealing with. Iran did something that tells you exactly what the 60-day negotiating window after the Memorandum of Understanding is going to look like. Iran shot down a spy drone on Memorial Day while simultaneously signing ceasefire frameworks. And that one act has changed absolutely everything. Here's exactly what happened. Iran's Southeastern Air Defense Command, based in Bandar Abbas and controlling the air defense architecture for Hormuzgan Province, announced that it had intercepted and destroyed an Israeli orbiter reconnaissance drone flying over the province. Hormuzgan Province is not just any random piece of Iranian territory. It is the province that physically contains and controls the entire Strait of Hormuz. It is the geography at the absolute center of the negotiations. It is the province whose maritime waterways are supposedly being opened to free commercial navigation under the very memorandum that Iran was simultaneously signing. The wreckage of the drone was supposedly recovered from the waters off Bandar Abbas by what Iran described as maritime border police. But here is the catch. Those maritime border police are members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps operating in the waters of the Strait under a civilian-sounding name. The IRGC pretending to be civilian police, recovering wreckage of an Israeli drone, while Iranian diplomats were sitting across a table from American negotiators. Iran stated that the system used to engage the drone was capable of detecting radar-evading unmanned aerial vehicles. They refused to disclose which specific system actually fired on it. The Israeli Defense Force, when asked about the incident, gave a deliberately ambiguous response. The IDF said it was not familiar with the incident. They neither confirmed nor denied that any Israeli drone had been shot down. That ambiguity tells you something important. If no Israeli drone had gone down, the IDF would have flatly denied the incident. The fact that they used carefully worded language leaves the possibility open without confirming it. Now let us analyze exactly what Iran just did and what it reveals about the institution sitting across the negotiating table from the United States. This is where the story becomes absolutely critical for understanding what comes next. Iran is supposedly in the process of signing a memorandum of understanding to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and extend a ceasefire. The strait that the memorandum promises to open runs directly through Hormuzgan Province. The province where the Air Defense Command just shot down a drone is the exact piece of geography that Iran is simultaneously promising to open to free and unrestricted commercial navigation. And rather than letting the drone fly to avoid disrupting the most significant diplomatic moment in the conflict's history, Iran's Southeastern Air Defense Command shot it down and publicly announced the shoot-down. They could have ignored it. They could have let it pass. They could have prioritized the diplomatic moment. Instead, they pulled the trigger and broadcast it to the world. This is the regime telling you something important. It is telling you that different parts of it are doing completely different things at the same time. The diplomatic apparatus is signing frameworks. The military apparatus is shooting down Israeli drones. Both are operating simultaneously without any apparent coordination or deconfliction. This is not mixed messaging. This is the operating condition of a fractured institution where different factions have completely different ideas about what Iran should be doing. There is no unified command structure capable of making them all do the same thing at the same time. The foreign ministry is trying to close a peace deal. The IRGC is trying to maintain the institutional narrative that Iran never surrenders anything to anybody. Two different institutions, two different messages, same country. The technical question of what Iran actually used to shoot down the drone is fascinating because it reveals what Iran's remaining air defense capability really looks like after Operation Epic Fury devastated most of Iran's military infrastructure. Iran suggested it used a system capable of engaging radar-evading unmanned aircraft. Two candidates are most likely. The first is the Majid, a domestically produced short-range air defense system that Iran first publicly displayed in 2020 and claims was developed specifically to engage small unmanned aircraft at low altitude. The second possibility is something Iran has been bragging about for years, a captured and reverse-engineered weapon system based on American technology. Iran has a documented history of recovering American and Israeli drones that went down in its territory over the past decade. The most famous case was an RQ-170 Sentinel stealth reconnaissance drone that landed relatively intact in Iranian territory years ago. Iran claimed to have reverse-engineered it to understand its vulnerabilities and develop countermeasures. But here's the honest technical reality. Whether Iran actually successfully reverse-engineered a system capable of reliably engaging radar-evading drones from a single recovered airframe is genuinely uncertain. Iran would very much like the world to believe it has this capability. The reality is probably much less impressive. Small reconnaissance drones like the Orbiter are relatively susceptible to jamming of their communication and navigation links. A lost link situation where the drone loses its connection to the satellite or ground station controlling it is a far more plausible explanation than a sophisticated anti-stealth intercept. Iranian jamming capabilities are active in the Strait of Hormuz. Small drones losing communication links in that contested electronic warfare environment is an operationally documented phenomenon. Iran recovering a drone that lost link and announcing it as a successful intercept of a specialized radar evading system is exactly the kind of information operation Iran runs constantly. Now let me give you the development that nobody saw coming and that completely changes the geopolitical framing of the entire conflict's potential resolution. President Trump posted on Truth Social on Memorial Day with a vision that would have been unimaginable just months ago. The president demanded that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, Jordan, and Bahrain all simultaneously sign on to the Abraham Accords framework. And then he floated something that sounds completely insane when you say it out loud for the first time. Iran, as a future member of the Abraham Accords. For context, the Abraham Accords are the normalization agreements that the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco signed with Israel in 2020. They established formal diplomatic, economic, and security relationships between those Arab states and the Jewish state for the first time in modern history. The Abraham Accords were considered one of the most significant diplomatic achievements of Trump's first term, precisely because they ended decades of Arab-Israeli diplomatic isolation and began building a new regional architecture based on shared interests rather than shared enmity toward Israel. Iran, under the Islamic Republic, has been the most vocally anti-Israel government in the world for 47 years. Iran funds Hamas. Iran funds Hezbollah. Iran has repeatedly called for Israel's complete elimination. And Trump just posted on Truth Social, naming Iran as a potential future member of a normalization framework with Israel. Read that for a moment, process it, and then understand exactly why it matters, regardless of the probability of it actually happening in the near future. The significance of Trump's Abraham Accords post is not that Iran will join the Accords next week. The significance is that the United States is publicly articulating a vision of a regional order in which Iran is integrated rather than isolated. In Trump's vision, Iran's pathway back to economic normalization, to sanctions relief, to international legitimacy runs through normalization with its neighbors, including Israel. Not through continued proxy warfare. Not through nuclear blackmail. Not through funding terrorism. Through becoming a normal nation that conducts diplomacy with its neighbors. That vision, even if it takes years or decades to materialize, is a fundamentally different frame for the Iran conflict than the frame of America trying to destroy Iran's military and force capitulation. It is the frame of America offering Iran a pathway to legitimacy if Iran is willing to take the steps that legitimacy requires. That offer, publicly made on Memorial Day by the American president, is the diplomatic complement to Secretary Rubio's one way or the other statement from New Delhi. One way is the deal. The Abraham Accords pathway, eventual integration into the modern world. The other way is what the KC-135 crews made possible with their lives. The other way is more strikes, more sanctions, more destruction, and ultimately the end of the Islamic Republic as we know it. This is the genius of Trump's foreign policy doctrine. It offers Iran both the carrot and the stick simultaneously. The choice is now entirely in Tehran's hands. The Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson Esmail Baghai delivered a statement on Sunday, May 24th, that is more substantive than anything Iran has said publicly about the deal since the framework started leaking last weekend. Baghai confirmed that Iran has reached a conclusion on a large portion of the issues under discussion. He confirmed that nuclear topics will be addressed during the 60-day window after the Memorandum of Understanding is signed. Read what that statement does and does not say. It is considerably less triumphalist than the Iranian officials from Saturday who were talking about $25 billion and no uranium commitment in the current document. Baghai's statement is more measured. He says a large portion of issues are concluded. Not all issues, a large portion. He says nuclear topics will be addressed during the 60-day window. This language does not say nuclear topics are excluded from the current framework. It says they will be addressed during the subsequent period. The language is consistent with both the Iranian interpretation that nuclear issues are deferred without a current commitment and the American interpretation that a general commitment exists in the current document with details to be worked out in the 60 days. Baghai is the foreign ministry spokesperson. He is the civilian diplomatic apparatus trying to close the deal. The IRGC military apparatus was simultaneously shooting down Israeli drones and posting on social media that Iran's uranium stays in Iran. The foreign ministry is trying to close the deal. The IRGC command apparatus is trying to maintain the institutional narrative that Iran never surrenders anything. The operational picture of what happens after the Memorandum of Understanding gets signed is far more complex than the diplomatic language suggests. Iran has been mining the Strait of Hormuz throughout this entire conflict. Before the air campaign eliminated approximately 90% of Iran's naval mine inventory, Iran had approximately 8,000 naval mines available. Operation Epic Fury strikes eliminated most of them, but not all. And Iranian forces during the conflict period have been laying mines in the navigable channels of the strait in ways that are deliberately difficult to map and track. Iran's own admission that it has lost track of some of the mines it deployed in the strait is one of the most alarming operational facts of the entire conflict. Mines that the mine layer cannot precisely locate are mines that no shipping company's insurance underwriter can provide coverage for. The strait cannot be safely reopened to commercial traffic at the volumes that were flowing before February 28th until the mine threat has been addressed to a level of confidence that the global maritime insurance community finds acceptable. That requires a comprehensive mine clearance operation using multiple types of systems simultaneously. The aerial layer uses RQ-4 Global Hawks and specialized reconnaissance drones conducting persistent overhead surveillance. The orbital layer includes imagery satellites building the complete picture of the strait's surface environment. And then there are the specialized underwater systems being deployed for the subsurface mine detection challenge. The Lamprey unmanned underwater vehicle that operates acoustically invisible in the shallow waters of the strait is the specific platform designed for exactly this problem. It can traverse the seabed building a comprehensive mine detection picture from below the surface. Combined with aerial surveillance, it creates what you can think of as a pinching operation on the mine environment from both above and below simultaneously. Let me tell you about the weapon system that has been quietly performing the operational role that most people associate with much more expensive American systems: the Lucas drone. The low-cost unmanned combat attack system built by SpectreWorks in Arizona. The price per unit is $35,000. To put that in context, an AIM-9X Sidewinder missile costs approximately $400,000. A rolling airframe missile costs around $900,000. A standard missile too costs approximately $2 million. The Lucas costs $35,000. It is a one-way attack drone that flies to its target and destroys itself on impact along with the target. The design is modeled directly on Iran's own Shahed 136 suicide drone. Admiral Brad Cooper, the CENTCOM commander, described the Lucas origin with a sentence that belongs in a museum of American military ingenuity. He said America captured one of Iran's drones, pulled the guts out, sent it back to America, put a little Made in America stamp on it, brought it back to the theater, and is now shooting it at the Iranians. America took Iran's signature asymmetric weapon, reverse engineered it, improved it, and is now deploying it against Iran. Admiral Cooper called it indispensable. At $35,000 per unit versus the cost of Iranian defensive systems required to intercept it, the economic math is decisively in America's favor. But the Lucas just received an upgrade that changes its capabilities from individual guided munitions to something far more dangerous. Shield AI's Hivemind autonomy software is now being integrated into the Lucas system. A Lucas without Hivemind is a single drone flying a programmed route. A Lucas with Hivemind is part of a coordinated swarm where every drone shares real-time data with every other drone in the swarm. If one drone identifies an active air defense radar, that information instantly goes to every other drone. The swarm collectively adapts and overruns point defenses by presenting more simultaneous contacts from more directions than the defending system can possibly service. This brings us back to the central question. Why does the Iranian drone shoot down on Memorial Day matter so much in the larger picture? The American RQ-170 Sentinel and the newer RQ-180 stealth reconnaissance drones are the verification architecture that makes any Iran deal worth the paper it is signed on. These aircraft are operating over Hormuzgan Province right now. They are building the most comprehensive possible picture of the Strait's mine environment from above. They are mapping Iranian military force dispositions along the coastline. They are tracking any Iranian military vehicle or vessel movements that might indicate violations of the ceasefire. They are verifying that Iran is not using the 60-day negotiating window to rebuild the military capabilities that Operation Epic Fury spent 84 days destroying. This is the trust but verify approach applied at maximum available technical capability. Iran can say whatever it wants about opening the strait and committing to nuclear discussions. But the American stealth reconnaissance drones operating over Hormuzgan Province are what America actually relies on to verify whether what Iran is doing matches what Iran is saying. When Iran shoots down a drone over the province that controls the strait on the same day, it is signing a framework to open that strait. Iran is attacking the surveillance architecture that prevents Iran from cheating on whatever it just agreed to. That is why the drone shootdown is not a minor incident to be dismissed as routine military activity during a complex diplomatic period. It is Iran attacking the very verification system that prevents Iran from breaking the agreement Iran is simultaneously signing. The shootdown is a direct preview of how the 60-day window is going to function. Iran will sign frameworks while continuing to attack the systems that monitor compliance with those frameworks. While the world's attention is locked on the Strait of Hormuz, China is doing something in the Pacific that deserves serious attention. China's People's Liberation Army Navy conducted 2 major deployments in the South China Sea and Western Pacific, specifically timed to coincide with the Balikatan 2026 military exercises being conducted by the United States and the Philippines. Balikatan means shoulder to shoulder in Tagalog. It is the annual joint military exercise between American and Philippine forces. China's decision to conduct 2 major naval deployments during this specific exercise is not coincidence. It is deliberate demonstration directed at both the Philippines and America. Taiwan's National Security Council has assessed that approximately 100 Chinese military vessels are currently inside the first island chain. The Pratas Islands, sitting just 400 kilometers from Taiwan's main island, are being pressured by Chinese Coast Guard vessels in standoffs with Taiwan's Coast Guard. China understands that every degree of American strategic attention pointed at the Persian Gulf is a degree not pointed at the first island chain. The 3-front simultaneous pressure strategy, Russia in Ukraine, Iran in the Gulf, China in the Pacific, is designed to exhaust American strategic attention. The Iran deal, if it actually produces real resolution, removes one of those 3 pressures and allows American strategic attention to concentrate more fully on the remaining 2. The bottom line is this. On Memorial Day 2026, while America honored 6 fallen heroes who flew KC-135 tankers in support of Operation Epic Fury, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps shot down an Israeli reconnaissance drone over the Strait of Hormuz. At the same moment, the Iranian Foreign Ministry was reaching agreement on a peace framework. At the same moment, President Trump was proposing that Iran could one day join the Abraham Accords. This is the reality of dealing with the Islamic Republic. 2 Irans operating at the same time. The diplomatic Iran trying to close a deal. The military Iran trying to attack the verification architecture. Both functioning simultaneously without coordination or deconfliction. The next 60 days will determine which Iran prevails. Will the diplomatic apparatus deliver real uranium surrender and genuine Hormuz reopening? Or will the military apparatus continue attacking American surveillance and ultimately collapse the entire framework? The answer will reshape the Middle East for generations to come. And through it all, 6 American heroes are watching from above. Major Klein, Captain Savino, Tech Sergeant Pewitt, Captain Coville, Captain Angst, Tech Sergeant Simmons. They are the reason any of this is possible. They are why Iran is at the negotiating table at all. They are the price America has already paid for whatever peace eventually emerges from this moment. For all the latest breaking news on Iran, the Strait of Hormuz, the Abraham Accords, and America's military operations, like this video, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. Stay informed. Stay alert. Honor the fallen. America first.